And with that said, we'll go ahead and begin our presentation. Thank you so much for joining us. We're here to discuss our Homeowner Assistance Fund deployment solution, ProLink Plus for emergency funds. May 12th is the date here. I'm Bree Kruger, I'm the EVP for ProLink Solutions, and joining me is Josh Brown, Director of Strategic Initiatives for E&A team. Today's agenda, we're going to cover a quick company overview about ProLink and then E&A, cover Homeowner Assistance Fund guidance, ProLink Plus overview, and then a deeper dive into the HAF plan and our delivery model to support that, the HAF fund. Company overview. So I think a number of you probably know of ProLink Solutions, have heard of us, have worked with us. We have some clients represented on the call today, and we appreciate their business and their involvement and attendance today. Our history has really surrounded affordable housing since the beginning. We have over 20 years of experience supporting affordable housing. Our clients are made up of what we call the three pillars for the most part: state and local housing finance agencies, tax credit syndicators, and investors and developers involved in affordable housing. And then, of course, what we're all here to talk about today, we do support emergency fund deployment needs. Our work consists of holistic technology platforms that support tax credit origination, bond allocation, asset management, compliance monitoring, and emergency fund deployment. So we, originally started with a product called ProLink HFA that a number of agencies use today. And then in the earlier 2000s with the hardest hit fund, we did develop our emergency fund deployment system, which is what is the basis and the foundation of ProLink Plus, which we'll be covering today. And our team is a dedicated group of people who are mission driven by the affordable housing, the cause and need there. We are technologists and industry experts, and a lot of technologists who have turned into affordable housing industry experts over the number of years that we have been working together to support the needs of our clients. Quickly talking briefly about our ProLink customers right now. In the middle, you can see Virginia Housing. They were our first housing finance agency that we started to work with, building ProLink HFA. And then we've expanded since then, serving a number of housing finance agencies across the coast, and they're represented here. We also support Alabama Housing Finance Agency and New Jersey Housing on our HHF, ProLink HHF Hardest Hit Fund software today. We have a number of investors and syndicators represented on the right-hand side who are on another platform called ProLink AIM, Alternative Investment Management Solution. So here's the big announcement. We made this is the second webinar, the second 30-minute session. The first one we hosted was on April 28th, and we may have had some of you attending that one. Thank you for that. The purpose of these webinars is really to provide you information quickly and efficiently, supporting the HAF program, which is obviously an emergent concern that we have, and we need to call to action quickly on it. And in supporting that program, ProLink has developed a solution that is turnkey, and we have partnered and we're working with E&A team, who is with me today, Josh Brown, who is representing them today, to support those needs. So I'll have him speak to E&A team's background in just a minute. ProLink Solutions, as I mentioned and illustrated through the last couple slides, we are serving 12 states on our ProLink HFA software suite. We have a few on the ProLink HHF tool, and we are a long time supporter and vendor for the affordable housing industry. We maintain relationships with all constituents and leadership groups involved. We have strong relationships with NCSHA, and I'm sure you've seen our representation at many of those events through them. And we are continuing to leverage those relationships as much as we can to build a strong foundation and support system around our HAF ProLink Plus solution. So with that, I'll hand it over to Josh to just talk briefly about E&A team's experience.
Thank you, Bree. So E&A team has been operating in the affordable housing industry for over 25 years all across the country with various types of clients that operate in the space. We have extensive experience in the programmatic needs of affordable housing and designing and delivering training for those aspects to help entities understand the operational complexities of affordable housing from a compliance perspective. And as well as other services we offer for compliance monitoring, file review services. We've helped in accessibility assessments, 504 plans, and pretty much anything that's necessary to operate in the affordable housing space, we have been involved in over the last 25 plus years. And we're excited to be a part of the team here and to assist participants in making an effective and efficient plan to deliver this much needed assistance.
Thank you, Josh. Okay, so quickly going over the HAF guidance. So this is really meant to set the table for the rest of our discussion today. Many of these bullets you may have already met with us and heard about or know yourselves. So we have our program history kind of represented on the left-hand side, part of the American Rescue Plan, nearly $10 billion allocated across the United States to support financial hardships and foreclosure prevention experienced by homeowners. Eligibility is a big concern and something that we are all preparing for with the HAF plan. It is different than what is, being studied highly in preparation for HAF, the HHF plan. So we are aware of those thresholds and AMI, NMI considerations, and then also taking into consideration the prioritization of targeting socially disadvantaged individuals and all of the tracking and reporting that will be required as part of that initiative. And then finally, we have our timeline. So after this plan was passed, we just passed the deadline in April for submitting those fund requests to Treasury, and congratulations on receiving those funds and having more clarity on who will be allocating those funds within your state. And now we're moving into, May, June pilot program implementation, which is highly encouraged by Treasury. And so we are busy supporting our agencies with their pilot plan, their pilot planning, and determining whether or not that is a viable option for them before submitting their plan, their official HAF plan, by June 30th, 2021 or before, or at least submitting that intended submission date. So that June 30th, 2021 date is the deadline to either submit your full HAF plan or to provide an intended date of submission to Treasury. So those are kind of the hot dates that we have actively on our targets, and we're meeting those milestones and working with our clients to reach those deadlines and make the most out of the time we have right now to plan efficiently for HAF. This is just a quick link to the latest Treasury guidance that you can find available. Has not been updated since April 14th, and my colleague Ryan is going to post that link directly for you in the chat so you can access that directly here. And that was the latest guidance is taken into consideration throughout this presentation. So it is informing the information that we are covering today, along with numerous agency discussions and demonstrations and solutioning that we have been conducting over the number of weeks since this program was enacted. So this slide is really, again, to take a bird's eye view and orient ourselves to the role that ProLink Plus can play and support you in with administering HAF. So ProLink Plus is represented in the middle from a technology perspective. We have the homeowner portal on the left and the agency portal represented on the right-hand side of that big box. And then we have all of the different players and parties represented in supporting HAF in administering this program surrounding that big box. So starting out at the beginning, we have our homeowner on the left-hand side who's applying through an electronic application through that homeowner portal for HAF assistance. We also have, some measures in place to manage calling in and starting the application process through a call center or paper application submission that may be required for a smaller group of individuals who may not have access to a computer for that electronic application submission, which is also mobile friendly. We have call center and counselor support that we can offer as services, and we'll get to that later on in our presentation. Up at the right next to the homeowner one in, we have our program manager who may be an outsourced party to your agency or maybe your agency. And that program manager is really overseeing all of the parties and the successful allocation of these funds. So you can see that the reporting from ProLink Plus that program manager can then distribute will go to potentially the state housing agency and to the leadership groups involved within that state, U.S. Treasury and HUD. All of that is generated out of ProLink Plus. And we have towards the bottom, you can see processing and underwriting. So once that application is successfully submitted through the homeowner portal with support of call centers and counselors as our first and second tiers of additional support for those homeowners, then we have our processors and underwriting services to support from the back end. And then finally, we are submitting payments. We're setting up those disbursements. That disbursement file is exported out of ProLink Plus and sent to the accounting department or processor that you have in place or that we put in place through a service provider, and then finally, sent off to those mortgage holders. ProLink Plus also includes the CDF file export. So that is basically a queue CDF file that queues up all of the files that need to be sent to that servicer. And that's something that we cover in more detail during a more thorough demo with you and how that process works out of ProLink Plus. So generally speaking, that's kind of the system that we have in place. This is a flexible system, and I want to make sure that that's clear to everybody. Our goal is to provide whatever a turnkey solution looks like for your agency. So if you have partners in place to provide these services, if you're a pre-HHF state and you have that infrastructure in place, we can work with that. But if you need some extra support, if you need some of these additional services, we can also do that for you as well. We're trying to gain as much efficiency as we can and provide a holistic tool and solution for this program. Speaking quickly about ProLink Plus, the software, the technology itself, it breaks down to 3 different pillars. On the front end, we just talked about that homeowner portal at a high level. So it includes an automated pre-qualification process. So a number of questions that we work with your agency on to make sure meets both state and regulatory, the federal requirements of the program. It's web-based. There is the ability to submit your supportive documentation through the application process to gather as much of that ahead of time as you can. There's a hardship affidavit feature that's built into the homeowner portal, and you get real-time status updates as you log into that homeowner portal. As a homeowner, they can log in and see the status of their application. From the agency portal perspective, the back end side, we have the ability also, once those applications are submitted, to assign cases across teams based on a number of different factors, whether it's location or load balances and capacity. So that is something that can be incredibly helpful with such volume that is caused by an emergent funding opportunity like this. So that is something that will help disperse those cases and work as required by your agency. There's a disbursement utility feature within ProLink Plus to provide an export of all of the disbursement details to then process those payments. Loan tracking is built in as well. Originally, with our hardest hit fund states that we supported. There was one state who tracked and submitted, they allocated those HHF funds as forgivable loans. And so we have all of that loan tracking built into ProLink Plus today and can accommodate that if that's the direction where this program is taken. Ad hoc reporting, we refer to it as data views, again, also available in ProLink Plus today, and allows you to basically report on and pull an extract from any field that is tracked and recorded in ProLink Plus. So it's a very flexible tool for ad hoc reporting and then exporting to Excel and continuing to expand upon. Treasury reporting is standardized by ProLink. So right now we are awaiting updates from Treasury on final guidance and what that reporting structure will look like. And once we get that, we will be updating our reporting to meet those requirements. And those program outcomes that are tracked within ProLink Plus will populate in that Treasury report. And then finally, we have that servicer communication via common data file. So I think a number of you have probably heard and had discussions about that process, which was the communication process to servicers during the HHF, the Hardest Hit Fund program, and it is expected to continue with HAF. And that process, that export and queuing up of those files and communication is built into ProLink Plus. And then finally, we have our executive dashboard and metrics. Very important. We have a few of the metrics we're currently reporting based off of the requirements originally of HHF, which still apply for this. They still apply for HAF, number of applicants by stage, average days by stage, approved homeowners by income, and approved homeowners by MSA. One thing I will tell you is that we are currently going through some enhancements to all of these areas. A lot of it is really more for user friendliness and updating look and feel for our homeowner portal, making that even more mobile friendly. Things have changed since the HHF program, so we're making sure we meet those standards and make that application process as intuitive as possible so that we can successfully get in as many applications that way and really distribute these funds as quickly as we can through making that process seamless up front. On the executive dashboards and matrix or metrics, that is also an area where we are expanding the metrics to include some of the reporting and priorities that are included in HAF. So that will only become more voluminous and more useful with the enhancements that we are making. But I do want to just reiterate that these things exist today. This is an existing used system by many, a number of states successfully over a number of years. And that's we're fortunate to have that leg up and be able to expand and respond quickly now to the needs of HAF. And then quickly covering some of the supplemental services that we can provide. We are first and foremost a technology company, and it is what we have done for so many years. And through that experience, we've developed really strong partnerships in the industry to support all of the needs required for the HAF program. So we are offering a number of optional services to help you really get to that turnkey solution that is required in a very short timeline. So at the very forefront, we are offering program plan consulting as part of our package, which we highly encourage. And part of that is because with a limited number of technology providers that can support HAF from end to end, like ProLink, we're going to be involved with the number of agencies, and it would be just like all the agencies, we're kind of needing to, this is a new program for everybody. So we want to leverage as much as we can the collaboration and commonalities between the agencies that we're working with and inform on that program plan consulting to make sure we're adhering to best practices, we're standardizing where it makes sense, and that program plan at the end of the day truly meets the ability of your technology that's supporting you. So that is the role that E&A team is really providing. They're very familiar with our systems, and they're going to be acting in that capacity to provide that program plan consulting alongside ProLink at the beginning of our implementations. Call center support is another optional service that we can include. So all of these services, just to clarify, they are acting as subcontractors under ProLink. Another reason why this is helpful to us, in some cases, again, these are optional. We can work with any partners that you have in place currently, but it does give us a leg up in organizing. We've been organizing for a couple months now with these subs, these service teams working with us. We're training, we're building a plan that we can then fit into the engagements that we have across the agencies and really scale to the need. So that is the benefit. Call center support is obviously a concern of agencies in an area of need. We have underwriting and processing services to offer, including that eligibility determination, program management, compliance verification, file audits, and quality control. Okay, and now moving on, I'm going to hand it off to Josh to just talk briefly about components of the HAF plan.
All right, thank you. So we just want to take a couple minutes today and talk at a high level about what's likely the part of this process that most of you are currently thinking most about, which is the development of the HAF plan. Just to add on to what Bree was talking about before about E&A's role here, one of our objectives as a member of this team that ProLink has assembled is to help guide the design of these HAF plans and the programs within them so that they can share commonalities to the extent that it's possible with other participants that are using the ProLink solution. And we'll be working with multiple HAF participants and be able to serve as a liaison and coordinate those program designs where it's possible and where it's beneficial. So in addition to that, as part of the ProLink team, we can help guide the program design to make sure that it fits well within that existing structure and framework of the software solution because of our familiarity with that software solution. And that can help to minimize variations and customizations, and that which could potentially extend, implementation times and things of that nature. So we really think that's an added benefit. So as many of you probably have already encountered, there is an initial payment available to participants, and you've probably already requested that, and many of you have likely already received that. And that initial payment is an amount equal to 10% of the total allocation available to each participant. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit because Treasury is encouraging, but they're not requiring. They're encouraging that participants use those funds or some of those funds from that initial payment to create a pilot program or to fund existing programs that are strategically placed and narrowly targeted at certain homeowners and issues where those resources can be directed very quickly and can have an immediate impact. One example that's been discussed among some recipients is a program designed to target delinquent mortgages within the participant's own portfolio of held mortgages and get them reinstated, thereby reducing the overall delinquencies by issuing funds to catch them up, pay late fees, other costs related to the mortgage to get it back in good standing. That's one example that you might consider as a use for that pilot that might help springboard into the overall plan. So following that, in order to receive the remaining funds outside of that initial 10%, I think everybody understands now that an HAF plan has to be submitted to Treasury for approval. Now, Treasury has indicated that they intend to provide eligible entities with a template for that plan, and those are due to Treasury by June 30th, 2021, or alternatively, participants can inform Treasury by that date of a future date that they intend to submit their plan. So E&A, as part of this collaborative approach, it will assist HAF participants in drafting their plan document and will help guide the decision-making process related to the programs within the plan, and it'll follow the criteria laid out in the Treasury guidance. Treasury has indicated that they expect the plan to at least include the following elements that I intend to touch on today that you see on your screen. The first is the homeowner needs and engagement piece, then program design, establishment of performance goals, establishment of the readiness capacity, and then a budget. So obviously step one will need to be the data collection and analysis piece, and Treasury is expecting that the HAF plan will be guided via a data-driven analysis that examines data on items such as mortgage delinquencies, defaults, foreclosures, post-foreclosure evictions, loss of utilities or home energy services, and other criteria. Now, this data should be analyzed for trends over time and should be organized by demographic categories as well as geography. As part of that data analysis, Treasury has emphasized the necessity to include public participation in the development of the plan. So the plan will need to define what methods were utilized to engage the public in the development of the plan, including any public hearings that were held or coordination with organizations or individuals who represent eligible homeowners. So after you collect and analyze the data, then you're ready to actually design some of your programs under the plan. So the plan will need to lay out the various program designs, which will need to be tailored to the needs of the homeowners that were identified via the data analysis. It will need to lay out program specifics. And now these can include requirements such as homeowner eligibility, the application review process, payment processes, maximum dollar amounts for each type of qualifying expense, if applicable, identifying other sources of assistance that may be leveraged with the HAF funds, such as utility assistance for other programs that may already exist that need to be utilized first, as well as identifying the intended impact or benefit to the eligible homeowners as a result of that program. An important thing to keep in mind that we like to stress is that the design of these programs should keep in focus the intent of this program, which is that it is to provide timely and necessary disaster relief. And because of that, the program designs should try to ensure that unnecessary barriers aren't created to access the assistance, such as overly burdensome verification procedures or document production. So Treasury wanted to make sure that we're cognizant of that and don't create significant barriers to people receiving these assistance. Now, another important part of the program design is establishment of the targeting methodology. As we talked in a few slides earlier about the income requirements, the first criteria requires that not less than 60% of the total allocation must be provided to homeowners who are at or below the 100% AMI or NMI threshold, whichever is greater. Now, participants have to provide a methodology for how they will target homeowners who are defined as socially disadvantaged and how they will encourage them to apply. Now, any amounts of the funding that are available beyond that initial 60% that was restricted to the 100% income threshold can be provided to homeowners at or below the 150% AMI or NMI. However, those funds have to first be prioritized to those individuals who are defined as socially disadvantaged. Once that prioritization has been fulfilled, then any remaining eligible households can be served up to 150% AMI, NMI. So if you think about it kind of as a waterfall, the first step is the 60% of the money has to go to serve 100% AMI, NMI, and then socially disadvantaged is a priority, and then anyone else under 150% can qualify. So in providing these program designs, you also want to make sure that you set your performance goals. Treasury has stated that at least every entity needs to include a performance goal that includes focusing on reducing mortgage delinquency. So be thinking about how you measure the effectiveness and the benefit of these programs. Establishing the readiness is the fourth part of the plan. And you need to be able to, in the plan, outline the participants and the service providers that you have brought together and identified in a timeline for the readiness of those different components to be able to implement this plan effectively. This is also the section where you need to identify if you've spent any of that initial 10% on pilot programs or other existing programs, where that was spent in order to establish how that might benefit the readiness. And finally, outlining a budget. Treasury has indicated that they intend to provide a budget template, and that can be used to outline a budget for each of the programs that are structured under the plan. So just to kind of close everything out and to wrap up, the approach that we've discussed here today, taking in the design of the plan and operation of the program, is a collaborative approach. leveraging the experience and capabilities of the team and service providers that ProLink has assembled to provide the necessary services for a successful program delivery. An added benefit is also being able to allow ProLink's team and us at ENA to kind of serve as a coordinator between the multiple HAF participants who are all working to design similar programs so we can get the best result and maybe not recreate the wheel every time. So I'll leave it at that, and I'll turn it back over to Bree to continue our discussion.
Thank you, Josh. Okay, and then just quickly to summarize today's discussion, again, this is ProLink Solutions acting as the prime contractor with a number of services that we can provide under us to support you. That is our service offering under ProLink Plus. ProLink comes with proven technology. ProLink Plus has been around again for a number of years and has been tried and true by a couple of states who have successfully used it for those number of years. We are packaged as a turnkey solution, which is why we are partnered up with our teams to offer those services. And we are built for scale. I do want to emphasize that we are built for scale. We have been planning for HAF since last year. We knew this was on the horizon, and we have put ourselves in a position to meet the need of a number of agencies who are all going to be looking to get this up and running successfully and get those funds successfully allocated to those in need as quickly as possible. So we're really looking forward to supporting you in that process. We're implementation ready. Our goal is to provide a 6-week implementation for the base ProLink Plus implementation, barring any customizations or nuances for your agency, but that is the goal as part of this process. And then with ENA team providing program design, expertise in consulting and training, and compliance verifications and audit support towards the end of these, as we get moving through these cases, we believe that we are really going to support initially that beginning stages of building a successful plan and leveraging the tools that we have at our disposal, and then measuring our success against that model and making modifications quickly and efficiently as necessary. These screens just are highlighting and again reiterating these are existing. ProLink Plus is an existing system, and we're happy to offer demos of that solution to you in a private setting. I think we may have to some of the attendees today, so thank you for that. And then finally, to wrap us up, we are hosting an event on May 26th at 1 p.m. Eastern time. It is going to be a longer session, I think an hour and a half session, expanded on our Homeowner Assistance Fund deployment solution. We'll be covering ProLink Plus again. We'll be doing more of a live demo experience of our software at that time. We'll be expanding on our program plan consulting, talking about some of the other considerations like security measures and other things that are going to be important in this process. And then again, services that we can include as part of that solution offering. So please register for that on May 26th. I think that registration link is going to be added to the chat as well. And then finally, we'll be following up. Thank you for your attendance today. We'll be following up with the deck, the Q&A exported from this webinar, a recording of this session, and the registration link again for this May 26th event coming up. So we have good follow-up and communication going forward. And with that, we are finished with our time. Thank you for sticking with us for an extra 5 minutes, and please reach out to us and let us help you with your HAF program, coming up with that plan and successfully executing and administering the funds for these homeowners. We appreciate your time. Thank you.